All right, welcome back to the broadcast. I think we still have the feedback. Okay, it's okay right now. Welcome and welcome to this broadcast. I'm Ansony, Sieh hosting. I have with me Mr. Emmanuel Savis. He is the executive director of LUJA. I also have with me Mr. Koti, who is an executive of LUJA as well. We are here to talk about the War and Economic Crimes Court. Gentlemen, let us mute ourselves when we're not speaking. I don't think we can continue with our hot FM because I don't know how we can control that at this moment. And so we will do without them in this broadcast. And we want to say we apologize for that. But Mr. Savis, I'm happy to have you. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Sieh. I'm happy to be on your enviable platform. There is no better place to be to tell our story and talk about LUJA at this moment. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Savis. We are happy to have you. Also with us is another executive of LUJA, Mr. Dennis Koti. Mr. Koti, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sieh, and thank you for the work that you have been doing on behalf of our country.
All right, Mr. Koti there, thank you. Folks, we will be focusing on LUJA and its advocacy for the War and Economic Crimes Court in this particular broadcast. We want to know LUJA's recent rally in Monrovia. What all happened? We will talk about that. Also, the recent June 24th rally for War Crimes Court in Liberia. We also want to talk to Mr. Savis and Mr. Koti about that. There's a recent congressional hearing at the U.S. Capitol. We will talk about that. Also, Mr. Emmanuel Savis, who happens to be the executive director of LUJA, has been placed a phone call to testify in August. We want to hear from him. Also, why do we still need a War and Economic Crimes Court in Liberia 15 and more than 15 years and still counting? Why do we still need a War and Economic Crimes Court? He and Mr. Koti will be able to give us an understanding. Can we trust Liberian politicians to give us the War and Economic Crimes Court, given what we know now with these politicians in Liberia? Also, there are multiple advocacy organization on the subject of War Crimes Court. We want to know whether their work they actually complement each other. We want to know. Let's get started, Mr. Savis. Again, we can't welcome you enough. We want to say thank you for the work that you do in advocating for War and Economic Crimes Court. Welcome. Why should we be having this broadcast at this time? That's my first question.
Well, it is because that's the most important conversation that should be taking place in Liberia and amongst Liberians anyway in the world. We're trying so many mental to at least get back on the right trajectory. And we know at Liberians United for Justice and Accountability that the only way we can do this is by us focusing on justice and accountability for the War and Economic Crimes Court in Liberia. So it's a good time to have this conversation now, Mr. Sieh.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Koti?
Yes, Mr. I think the war up to present because we cannot up to this get to know what reason we had to fight the war. I can assure you that even when Samuel Doe overthrew the Tobago government, he said there were three phrases that I can still remember: rampant corruption, misuse of public offices, and human rights abuses. Those were the three major words to convince us that it was necessary for this administration to be overthrown. Similarly, Charles Taylor came with the gun and said, hey, look, I'm fighting for your freedom. What kind of freedom? Up to now, we don't know. And so right after that the dust seems to be settled, we still see rampant ritualistic killings and all forms of corruptions and so forth. So we feel that the only way all of these things will stop is to bring forth justice. War and economic crimes court will be very important today in Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Koti. And Mr. Savis, we are aware of the recent rally that took place in Liberia. Tell us what all happened. What was the goal of that rally by LUJA?
So the rally was basically organized by Justice Forum. LUJA went to support, as you're aware, we're in the country to launch the 1 million victim signature. And we went to support our brothers in arms for justice. We were at the national legislature. We faced serious difficulties entering the fence. In fact, they didn't want all of us to enter. They made sure that it cut down the numbers of people entering the national legislature to be able to present a petition once more for the establishment of War and Economic Crimes Court. While we were there, we had a few representatives that came to be able to help us enter the fence. Finally, we did through some of those representatives that favor justice and accountability. There's a guy there who is a representative. He's from the Prince Johnson Party. His name is Gompo from somewhere in Nima County. Surprisingly, Mr. Sieh, he is the chair for petition. So he came down to receive the petition and then took that petition into his office. Well, we follow up to get signatures from our lawmakers. He was fighting with us. In fact, he almost assaulted Kelvin in his office, protecting Prince Johnson. So that's what happened. While we were there, we ended up presenting another petition for War and Economic Crimes Code. But we have seen our system being blocked by Buffer Chambers, the governor of the Republic of Liberia, and other representatives and senators that don't want War and Economic Crimes Court.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Savis. So you presented yet another petition. My understanding is this is not the first time. How many petitions do the lawmakers wish to see before they can act? Our understanding also is that the president has sent them a letter asking for their advice.
Well, and that's the thing, Mr. Sieh. I was in conversation with our board chairman, Mr. Koti, the other day about presenting petitions over and over at the national legislature. There's a need. They have enough, but enough is not enough for them. You got to continuously remind them. Those guys are kids. They care about themselves. They care more about what goes in their pocket. They don't care about justice and accountability. And we victims, if we really want this, we got to treat them like kids. Like remind them all the time, you know, that we need justice. And that's the reason why we're not giving up. Our petition for War and Economic Crimes Code continuously followed the recent one, and it shows clearly that one a TRC implemented in the Republic of Liberia. So if it means checking on them for our petition and giving them another petition, we got to keep doing it until we can encounter some responsible representatives and senators in the majority that want War and Economic Crimes Court, or until a country like the United States can speak, at which time we expect them to listen.
Mr. Savis, you just referred to the lawmakers as kids. And we all know this is something you have devoted your life to. And in any way, they have to play a part. And you are referring to them as kids. Don't you think that you, as you know, creating a blockade for this genuine advocacy?
Unfortunately, no. I'm not. I don't see any Liberian who should be against this. And when I say they're kids, not all of them, majority of them. We got some of our friends who fought for War and Economic Crimes Court. For example, I'm good friends with Carlos Gray, but I'm not happy with the way he is treating the situation of justice and accountability. Yesterday he was focusing on it. Today he doesn't want it, and then he pretends to want it. You know, those are issues that is very annoying, and at some point you have to come to their level and deal with them on the issues. And that is why we know we cannot deal with the national legislature in order for us to have the War and Economic Crimes Code proceeding in Liberia. We need a United States. We need a government that Liberia, that claims to have some sovereignty, is afraid of. And that is exactly what we're doing. As you are aware, a recent statement by the Congressman Chris Smith and the hearing that just occurred has made the national legislature to start discussing war crimes court. So when I say kids, it's about their understanding about the issue, their selfishness, their greed. You know what? We need to brand these people the way they need to be branded. No good human being will want to shield justice from the Republic of Liberia. So I stand by my word. They are acting like kids. They are kids. We need justice, and we need adults who are responsible to institute the roadmap to justice. And that's why we're thanking our foreign partners for stepping in.
So, Koti, let me come to you. You are the chairman for LUJA's board. And you are aware that LUJA as an institution has been involved with the advocacy, going to Liberia nearly every year, and even, year after year advocating, reaching out and all that. And we are at the point where we don't know when this war crime code will even be established. Do you still have hope? Do you sometimes feel frustrated?
Thank you, Mr. Sieh. I would tell you that I have strong hope that the War and Economic Crimes Court will be established in Liberia. But first, let me send my heart to what is happening currently in Liberia about the current situation we have there regarding the coronavirus or the pandemic. We know that it has affected, is actually getting very, very serious. And this government, I don't know what measures they have ready for our people. And those are some of the things that we're talking about. If justice was served in Liberia, these things we would have been prepared for it long ago. But now it is killing people. And in fact, they don't want to hear about it. But I can assure you that justice will be served. One good thing I know is sometimes justice is delayed, and people think that justice being delayed will be denied. But no, not in the case of Liberia. In fact, the writer of Animals Farm once said in one of his books that, look, as human, we have few no's in our pockets. There is just time for them to keep saying no, but I tell you what, those few no's will be gone. Someday we will stand together and thank God that, yes, justice has been served. Look what's happening right now. I heard on the 24th of June, this particular month, that the National Bar Association has submitted a beautiful piece of a bill that is intended for the legislature to take advantage of. I can assure you that there are so many ways that we can fight this war and we will succeed. And I want to encourage all Liberians to join with us. Don't sit down and think that because it is not at your doorstep, so you are free from it. This is what all of us thought when even the war was coming to Liberia. We had a strong feeling that, oh yes, they're just coming for Samuel Doe. But guess what? How many people that died? So it is time for us. We are not carrying guns. We are carrying truth. It is time for everyone to join us so that we can make this to happen for the sake of the next, if not this generation, for the next generation. We don't have education, good education system. Those of us that are fighting this war, some of us are not career politicians, like those who are in government positions. We have some close friends there, but the more you talk to those people, they try to term you either as an opposition or an enemy.
Mr. Koti, something you said that I want to bring your attention to. You gave an example about Doe, that during the war, they said they were coming for Doe, And then at the end of the day, we all suffer it. Why are you trying to say we're talking about war crimes code? Are you saying that the war crime code is not only coming for perpetrators? I just want you to clarify.
No, that is not what I mean. What I'm trying to put out there is to encourage all Liberians to join with us. Not because if anybody who feels that, well, my child was not in a war, he didn't die, so I mean, war crime code is not important. No, they should erase that notion.
Okay.
Let all of us join together to be on the same page to fight this war. It is for the good of all. When justice is served in Liberia, there will be no more rape. There will be no more rape where people will go free. There will be no more ritualistic killings where people's children will be disappearing. Where people, I mean, human beings will be killed broad daylight and the perpetrator will not be found. We can put stop to all of this by bringing justice to Liberia. And it begins with the War and Economic Crimes Code. And my call is to call all Liberians, all meaningful Liberians, to join with us in this fight. They should not draw back.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Savis, let me come back to you. The recent June 24th rally for War Crimes Code that Mr. Koti just talked about, I just want to know, did LUJA as an institution participate in the rally, and what was different about that rally?
Yeah, we certainly did. When I was in Liberia, we had the opportunity to sit with the Liberian National Bar Association. Mr. Tiawan Gonglo, obviously the counselor, is heading the bar, and he wants justice and accountability for Liberia. We talk about ever trying to put a lot of people in the street. We wanted this to be very elaborate. We wanted to make sure we mobilize, put up 100,000 person in the street, and we started discussing about what needs to be done, and everybody was coming on board, including some international partners. But because of the coronavirus, we could not do that. We're hoping that we have a lot of people that want War and Economic Crimes Courts out there. The Bar Association, through its able leadership of Tiawan Gonglo, decided to take a 20-man delegation. And yes, we were represented, and the bill was again presented to the Senator of the Republic of Liberia. So let's hopefully hope that they will do something about it.
We are not hearing you.
Thank you, folks. You are watching Focus on Liberia. This is a joint broadcast by Focus on Liberia and the Emmanuel Savis Show, and we are discussing the War and Economic Crimes Court. Mr. Emmanuel Savis is the executive director of LUJA, that is Liberians United for Justice and Accountability. I also have with me Mr. Dennis Koti, who is the chairman of LUJA's board. And for your information, I happen to be a proud member of this noble institution that cares deeply about accountability and justice in Liberia. Mr. Savis, let's continue our conversation here. We heard about a congressional hearing in which some of your fellow Liberians were invited, and they were able to answer questions from the members of representative the committee. What I want to hear from you is what should be the takeaway from this hearing, because this might not be the first time the U.S. House of Representatives have done something on war crime code, and here we are and nothing yet. So what can we take away from this hearing?
That there is some seriousness coming from the United States government, from the congressman and the folks that he's mobilizing for justice, looking at our rich heritage, our friendship with the United States, and how people have suffered so long of injustices in Liberia. I think we should start considering that this time around there's some seriousness attached to it. And we also need to do our part to be able to show the United States that as victims, we have not been heard by our government, and we need somebody bigger to talk to them. And this is the reason why we're glad that they are doing what they're doing. So Liberians out there can hope that this time around something has been done. I've been fighting for war crimes court for a very long time. LUJA has been, many of you, including the host, Mr. Sieh here, Mr. Koti, has done this tirelessly in the Republic of Liberia for justice and accountability. And Kelvin here and I sat and talked about sometimes some of the frustration and blockage that we face because of justice. We know everybody should care about it. But this time around, you can't attack us in any way possible when in fact we have the United States now doing something about our situation. What I urge Liberians to do is to be a part of the process, join the 1 million victim signature, show to the world that we care about justice so that tomorrow we can be able to submit this thing to the congressional hearing to be able to determine that Liberians do really want one economic crimes code. But I'm confident at this moment, Mr. Sieh, that America is about to do something.
All right. So Mr. Koti, I want to know, did the advocate make a compelling case at a hearing? And then also, Mr. Koti, there is this narrative that is out there by some people that the hearing was quote unquote one-sided, that the individuals who were called to testify before the committee are on the other side. I don't know what side they are talking about, but that is the criticism. Maybe because they are saying they didn't see anybody from the government side. What do you make of all this?
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Mr. Koti. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you for that question. But people will always say all these things. Guess what? Even the congressman who has no business in Liberia, who has no special interest in Liberia, people are criticizing him or of being involved at this time. And politicians are saying that he himself, in fact, if he wants war and economic crimes court to be established in Liberia, they should first send President George Bush to the ICC, the International or whatsoever justice. And this man is not asking any Liberian to go to the ICC. They are asking for Liberians themselves to establish justice in Liberia. And they are using all of these words against him, showing all his negative sides, that he is a hypocrite and so forth. They are bringing all of these things forth. But I tell you what, people will always do these things. And when a benefit comes, they will be the same people to enjoy it. And again, I will continue to call on all Liberians to try to join force with us. We are fighting for justice, and we are hopeful that justice will be served in Liberia, no matter what. I don't care how long it takes. How long did it take for the I don't want to say Congo, I'm going to be doing the wrong thing, but one-party state to be taken away from Liberia? It took years upon years. And in fact, those days, when people try to come in to criticize these things, they were haunted. Okay? But today, we have multi-party democracy in Liberia. This is very simple. And in fact, when Liberians came to start criticizing the Honorable man Smith about this war and economic crimes code being established in Liberia, one thing they also forgot is that when Liberians were worn out, I mean, they didn't have breath anymore. There was nothing else they could do. It was the same George Bush that they are calling for him to be sent to RCC. It was the same George Bush who ordered Charles Taylor to stop before that could happen. So I am hopeful we are going to continue to encourage not only the congressmen, but all Americans who want justice across the world to join force with us that justice be served in Liberia. If they have interest in Liberia, justice comes first. If we cannot have justice in Liberia, then Liberia is not Liberia. Liberia is not free. We're still going to have similar problems in Liberia. So those of us who are advocating, we are very simple. We are not taking gun against anybody. We are not fighting anybody physically. We are not taking side. Like some of them will come to say, well, these people are just there to explain their side of the story. Well, then the government gave reason why they can't establish justice in Liberia. Nobody is stopping them. But for us, we feel that justice must be served in Liberia. There is no, and I think the National Bar Association, as well as the civil society members, or Mr. Dempster, or Mr. Hassan Bility, and all the other people that were present, I thank them for that effort in Liberia, as well as the congressman himself, Honorable Smith. He's doing a great job, and we want to encourage all others to join with him.
Thank you so very much. And Mr. Savis, I was listening, and we hear a lot of things, and so what we expected Emmanuel Savis to be on that panel, and so the question is it that you were not invited? And to my previous questions, did it make a compelling case there?
Yeah, I think it did. Obviously, I wasn't invited on the first hearing. I've got an invitation on the second one in August, so I will be testifying as well. And I want to congratulate everyone that showed up in that hearing to be able to make a case for the War and Economic Crimes Court. The TRC chairman, or former chairman, made a good case. My own big sis, Yasendi, made a very good case. Muller from Switzerland made a very good case. And in fact, because of that hearing today, we're hearing about War and Economic Crimes Court continuously, especially from the United States Congress men and women. So I want to thank them, and don't be surprised that I wasn't there. Even if I wasn't there, other Liberians that can make a case for us. I know we have been behind the War and Economic Crimes Court for a very long time, and it will only be prudent if they can talk to us as well. But I want to assure you that we've been invited in August. We will be testifying as well.
On this criticism that the panel was some kind of one-sided, that the congressmen and maybe others that he's working with, they are selected as to who they invite. Is that any valid criticism at all?
Obviously not. That's not valid. That's the same kind of excuses they have used for decades to not be able to bring justice to Liberia. What do they want to see? The president went to the United Nations and made a case for War and Economic Crimes Court. Of course, the president returned and denied that he ever did that. The president wrote the national legislature and asked for an advice. The president says, I want development over War Crimes Court. The president will instruct somebody like Buffer Chambers not to bring the bill on the floor for discussion. CDC has gotten away from justice and accountability. And these are things that we know. So we don't expect them to come and hail the hearing. We expect them to know that the hearing is intended to end impunity, justice and accountability, war and economic crimes. And we know people in this present government that have been committing these crimes, people in past government been committing these crimes. So I don't expect that they'll come out here and laugh and joke and be happy about what transpired. It's very serious and it's concerning to those who don't want justice. So I expected the government to say what it said, but we don't need them. We are real victims. Anybody who's in Liberia that don't want justice, you're either not a victim or something is wrong with you that we need to fix. And that's the reason why we're fighting for rehabilitation for our people.
Mr. Savis, you just indicated here that you will be part of the August hearing. We have listened to some other Liberians at the previous hearing. Um, Talk to me. What is the importance of we Liberians trying to always see outside help for the war and economic crimes code? And in this case, we're seeking this help, or advocates are seeking this help from the U.S. government. The U.S. government is aware that the Liberian civil war is well documented. So, how in any way this kind of hearing going to further the cause?
Well, hearings like that are very important to us. Very, very, very important. As you are aware, we cannot deal with the situation in Liberia because Liberians in authority, the majority of them, want to continue impunity for an obvious reason too. They want to continue corruption. They want to be able to get involved in ritualistic killing without any prosecution. The rape on the rise in Liberia without persecution. They want to continue the same thing the war has done and made them rich. So that's why they don't want it. Why do we need outside help? It's a really good question. But is there anything that Liberians don't need outside help for? Obviously, to even build a 2 kilometers road, we got to ask UC, the United States government. We got to ask the European Union. We borrow for everything. We boast about sovereignty and independence, and yet we are unable to even identify that justice is needed in Liberia. So the outside help is needed. I want to congratulate everyone getting involved in Liberia who are Liberians that want to see justice, but this would never be done. My brothers and sisters listening, Mr. Sieh, our host, and of course my board here, Mr. Koti, we will not have justice if we don't have outside help. Here are the things they complain about. They complain that they don't have money. During the hearing, we heard money was discussed. How money is going to be raised, it was discussed. So it put an end to the fact that Liberians that want to continue impunity, especially from government standpoint, will say we don't have money. And then here is another thing we're doing, collecting 1 million signature. We are out there from county to county trying to collect 1 million signature to put an end to the conversation or debate that only politicians want war and economic crimes and people use it for political gains. We want to put an end to these things. And I just want to say thank you to the outside help. Because like Mr. Koti said in his opening statement, it took George Bush, the former president of the United States, to speak about the hostility in Liberia and ask them to cease fire and ask Charles Taylor to leave before it happened. So going back to America is not a bad thing for us to do. After all, we depend on them for everything.
Myself, Mr. Koti, during the hearing, the members of representatives, especially those on the committee, asked a lot of questions, and the panel or the panelists, they provided the answers. You think the answers they provided put the congressional committee in a much better position to make a decision on the war crime code?
I will say this, thank you. But whether or not the answers to their questions were sufficient enough, what we as an organization can do is to continue to encourage them. If they still need anything whatsoever, we will still provide it. For example, my director has just said that we are launching a 1 million signature throughout the country. People who are interested in justice, all these things will be provided for them. There have been some other critical questions. People refer to the room statutes, etc. Look, all these questions are going to be answered. If they still need anything whatsoever, we will provide it. We get the answer for everything. So I have hope that they got enough. And if they still need anything, we will provide it. I'm hoping that I believe that they have what they need to fight for us.
Thank
and
you
they have
so
been
very
watching
much.
as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Koti, let me follow up with you here. So the War Crime Code that LUJA is advocating for, how, this is the big question, right? How does it benefit the victims, the perpetrators, and the country Liberia? That is the big question. How?
Here is how, or Mr. Sieh, thank you for that question. Here is how. I don't know which country you find in the world without rules, law, and order to be abandoned. I mean, it's just not possible. The country we live in here, for example, the United States government, when anybody does wrong, they hold you accountable. I don't care how long it takes, they hold you accountable, and you will bear all the consequences. There is no go come. Whether you God or Godfather, you will have to face justice. This is just simple thing that we want for Liberia to be able to do. But today in Liberia, if a little girl is raped, there is no justice for that child. We can show you documents upon documents to the point where sometimes some of us we have children, and it causes some of us to cry when we see some of these things going on. How can an 8-year-old or 4-year-old child be raped by 30-year-old man, and it goes in vain? This is not real. That's not justice. I mean, if the government was serious about all these things, justice will be served. All these cases will be followed, and we'll see clear evidence that they went through the court system, and whatever punishment that was prescribed by law was followed. But none of these things are happening, and so we feel that these things should be able to happen to put stop to these things. Today in Liberia, even relatives of yours, they think that corruption is the way to life. Okay, if you send something to somebody to do something for you, they will not have the feeling that, well, you struggle for that thing or that money that you're sending, and all because there is no justice in the country. Where you will carry them? Nowhere. So all we want is justice, and it begins with those who created this problem, those who financed the war, those who brought the war over to the people, and they continue to take away from our people the resources. Look at, for common example, how a country that people live on $1 per day, legislators are making $15,000 a month. I mean, how can you justify that? So
what is wrong with that, Mr. Koti? The lawmakers are saying it's budgeted. What is wrong with that? They say it's budgeted. It's in the budget. It's legal.
Well, okay, yeah, we understand it's legal, but to the little man down over there, what benefit is the little man getting from? I mean, the ordinary people getting out of that? If senators I pay, or senators and representatives I pay $10,000, and the ordinary citizen cannot even find food to eat, and what are they fighting for? That they will be getting all of that money that the ordinary person cannot get. And you think the ordinary person is okay with it? Well, we understand it was budgeted. It's clear it was budgeted, but they have to think twice. Is that doing any good for the country, to bring development in the country, to provide jobs for the ordinary people? Those are all things that we can get on the drawing table and be able to resolve, so that at least the ordinary people can be considered.
Let me come to you, Mr. Savis. Same question, and that is the biggest question. And hold on, let me ask the question, then you can mute yourself. So the war ended more than 15 years ago. Liberians are surviving. They're moving on with their daily lives. And Emmanuel Savis and his team at LUJA saying, no, things are out of place here. So the ordinary man is about, what are Emmanuel Savis and the group talking about here? We've been here 15 years, no war crime code. We're hustling, we're eating. What is the benefit for the ordinary man, for the country, the perpetrators, and even victims, Mr. Savis?
So yeah, that's the argument that many people will put forth. That is, the bullet was fired beginning 31 years ago, and so justice is not required at this point. That's not the case.
You are breaking out.
Can you hear me? You're muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We need closure. We need to make sure that our history does not tell our children that 250,000 people were murdered in that country and we did nothing about it. We need not to tell our children how people became senators, president, vice president, representative, the way they did. Some of them fought the war, helped kill people, and they end up winning elections, somehow became rich. Those are the real histories of Liberia. We don't want to pass this over to the next generation. We want to make sure we teach our children how to honestly fight, to be good policy makers, to go to government and do something for the ordinary people. The benefits are enormous if we can bring war and economic crimes court. The chairman of the board of Liberians United for Justice and Accountability, Mr. Koti, just talked about the money they're making in government. These are the crimes that we consider legal in Liberia that we need to address. If the War and Economic Crimes Court does not come to Liberia, we cannot even address these problems, because even the budget is being looked at by these people as if it belongs to them, and the ordinary people cannot benefit. Look at, for example, Wata Allison, and I'm sure you've come across that video because I've seen you play that video before on your show, Mr. Sieh. Wata Allison was arrested by Prince Johnson. Wata Allison was interrogated by Prince Johnson. Wata Allison was slapped by Prince Johnson. Wata Allison was present while being interrogated, yelled and slapped when the president senator, now president senator, sorry, then rebel leader asked for a pistol. Today, where is Wata Allison? Let me just say something to you. Wata Allison's son worked at the Freeport of Monrovia. You know what it means to see Senator Johnson, Senator of the Republic of Liberia, and he's killed my mother? Think about it, any of you. Think about it. These are the people that are victims of the Civil War, like us. And we need to fight for people like that. There is a man called Rufus. I forget what his last name, and I hope if David is monitoring this broadcast, he can remind me of his last name. You know, he got shot a few times in his lower butt. He cannot walk. You know, LUJA has a promise to take him to Ghana. And I was just talking to my board chairman that we need to come together and help him go and get treatment. He's still bleeding after 30 years. The scars of war, visible. Look at the traffic we got in Liberia. We can't build roads because people are stealing. The national legislature is so corrupt that even after the elections that brought Ellen to power and people had hope, she made them so corrupt and legally corrupt too that you cannot even explain. Like you said in your question, how are they corrupt when it is legal? You know, not everything that is legal is right. The advantages these people are taking over ordinary Liberians, it's really important for us to understand that the War and Economic Crimes Code is going to help. And that is exactly what we need to be able to tell our children, that this generation did something about the atrocity, the heinous crimes committed by these people, instead of just letting it go and pretending like nothing happened. Mr. Sieh, I really wish that all Liberians will understand the benefits of justice are enormous. It will fix our judicial system. It will fix our governance process. It will fix a lot of things, even land dispute, even benefits for some victims are large in Liberia. We do not or will not rest until justice comes to Liberia, until we are placed back on the right trajectory. And the only way this can be done in our LUJA's voice is the War and Economic Crimes Code establishment.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Savis. I know you have your own personal experience with the war, a story that you continue to tell. And I mean, I will still trying to see, I want people to see why this is important. This is what I'm trying to press you here. So this has happened to you as an individual, and your story is similar to many Liberian story. So we get the war crime code, and out of a sudden, that pain disappear, that scar disappear in your mind. Is that what the war crime code gonna do?
It's certainly not going to disappear,
Mm-hmm.
but it brings some closure. It
Okay.
shows that family lives were valuable. It shows that we had a constitution protecting lives in Liberia. It shows that we regret the situation. It shows that we are getting rid of criminals that have committed these atrocities. There's a lot of things to benefit. It's not going to bring back my brothers. It's not going to bring back your mother. It's not going to bring back your sisters. It's not going to create a situation where we see our families again. But imagine the benefits of having people in government that are not stealing from you. Broad daylight, collecting 15,000, 30,000. Imagine the fact that we are here talking about justice and accountability and nobody wants to hear us. It is important that justice is restored to Liberia because that's the only way we can fix Liberia. If we bypass the justice system and decide that we got good politicians that we're going to replace the bad politicians with, we're going to make those good politicians that we assume to be good bad when they are leading. The War and Economic Crimes Code is really important. It doesn't mean that if it comes, we're going to get our family back, but it means that you and I, if we decide to be the bad human tomorrow, we will be reminded that even after 30 years, the Liberian people will be resilient and they will fight for justice. So future occurrence of war will not be a possibility or any of us mind. And that is the reason why we need to fight for it. When justice comes, we will be happy.
Thank you, Mr. Savis. Again, folks, you are watching Focus on Liberia. I have with me executives of LUJA, Mr. Emmanuel Savis, which is the executive director of that institution. And we also have here Mr. Dennis Koti, who is the chairman of LUJA's board. Welcome. We are discussing the War and Economic Crimes Code, the need for it. Mr. Savis, let me follow my questioning on that same line. The issue of who we are is another way to look at this war crime code. And by that, I mean, we saw Sierra Leone instituted a war crime tribunal. People were held accountable. Rwanda, South Africa, in Germany. You know, there have been some form of instrument that brought closure. Liberia now is the only country that has not done it, but Liberia is still standing. How does that make us to look among the Community of Nations? Do you want to speak to that, sir?
It makes it look bad. Let me just say to our folks there at Hot FM, you're more than welcome to meet us and play the VOA in the next 2 minutes and then join us right after. It makes it look bad, Mr. Sieh. It looks like we're not even humans. It makes Sierra Leone even look better than us. Let me tell you something. Yesterday, I was fortunate to meet some of our brothers and sisters from Sierra Leone. Let me say brothers because we're all men. Kevin and I went down south in Edmonton on a business negotiation, and we met some of our brothers who are Sierra Leoneans. And we talked about how Liberians went to Sierra Leone, and Liberians taught Sierra Leoneans a lot of things that they didn't know. The respect from Sierra Leoneans to Liberians were enormous. It's not the way it was anymore because they're advancing. They persecuted some of the most powerful warlords. In fact, they have a prison in Sierra Leone that kept some of them. They die in prison, some of them. And we've done nothing about the situation. And they even mention names of some of the individuals that are going free and serving as senators and representatives in Liberia. It is a very disheartening process for us to believe that justice is something that we cannot pursue in Liberia. We need to do that because if we can't do it, they don't see us as humans. I told you an experience one time when a man came from Norway that worked for the United Nations. He went to the national legislature and Prince Johnson went past him and he shook Prince Johnson's hands. And then his friend, who is also a member of the national legislature, said, do you know who just shook your hand with Prince Johnson? Why would you let me shake his hand? He's a senator, but he's a murderer. So it's like the child stealer kind of thing. Why did we elect somebody who murdered us? We got so many why, but we don't have justice. So we are tired with all of the why and the mistakes that we're making in Liberia. That is the reason why we have a gullible society. We have an uneducated society. That is the reason why they will not invest in healthcare. That is the reason they will not invest in a better society so we can even learn through our experiences. And because of these things, we are unable to make good decisions in our country. So it's going to take folks who understand the importance of justice to stand up and do something about the situation so we don't be looked at as chimpanzee or people who are not real humans, because the history of our country with 250,000 people dying and we not doing anything about it certainly does not make us real humans.
Thank you, Mr. Savis. And let me come to something else here quickly, which is the trip you made before the recent trip. I know the account when you were beaten. You have bruises all over you by EPS personnel. The government did absolutely nothing. I'm not sure if those guys were held accountable. All you were asking, Mr. Savis, can we just get this code so that the people who have been accused can go and exonerate themselves? You were beaten by a government when was in opposition, was advocating for war crime court. Now, your recent trip, leaving Liberia, from what we understand too, was like, hey, this guy's not going to leave from here. There were all kinds of tactics being put into place. Do you not get discouraged sometime in this fight, Mr. Savis?
It's because there are a lot of Liberians that know more than we do. A lot of famous Liberians, a lot of Liberians that should understand justice better than us. A lot of Liberians that voices can go to the top of heaven. But those are Liberians that don't care about justice. It's sad. So we as ordinary people should never give up. I'm never going to give up. The fact that sometimes we're fighting and not seeing that others who can push this thing, especially from government, doing something about it, is disheartening. But it's also encouraging to know that these are the pillars that we stand on to be able to fight. Because imagine if somebody like me can be arrested, somebody like me can be beaten. I was surprised because what we did on that day was the very same thing we've done previously. We went to the president to just ask about a petition and present a petition. We didn't go there to fight the president. We didn't ask the president to step down. We went there asking the president to receive our petition and consider the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court. Surprisingly, you got to note this, ladies and gentlemen. The man guiding the president, Gaddafi, is a rebel. Sieh Briggs is a rebel. These are people that need rehabilitation. They are mad that we're talking about war crimes court. I was arrested, dragged in the boot. I was kicked on my ears, stepped on my knees. I was sick. I had to walk with the help of a stick. And it's disheartening that they would do something like that to me. And in fact, before I could reach, when they took me to prison at the Liberian National Police, a friend and I that worked for the Inquirer newspaper, who is now the press secretary to the president, released a statement from the executive mansion admitting that I was arrested and that I'm going to be charged and sent to court. On what basis, I don't know. It took many Liberians, including the Canadian government, to ask for my release through the Canadian embassy in Ivory Coast and the British embassy in Liberia for them to be able to release me in the hands of my lawyers, asking me to come the next day, and they were going to charge me and subsequently send me to court. What did I do wrong? You know, the panel that was headed by Patrick Sudu, the police director, did not see anything wrong. They communicated with the executive mansion. I didn't do anything wrong. There was no way they could charge me. Folks from the United Nations showed up. The only people that didn't show up were politicians. I want to give special thanks to some of the representatives, like Swakoko Dennis, Vincent, and other individuals that support war and economic crimes code that came over, and to all LUJAns that came to the police station, and at some point demanding my release. I'm not discouraged. I don't think any members of LUJA is discouraged. As you are aware, after that incident, we went back to Liberia twice, and we are still determined to do that. Not to mention some of the complications surrounding our entry into Liberia on this occasion, and then leaving Liberia as well, how difficult it made it for us. I would never be discouraged. I'll fight for justice to the end.
Mr. Koti, welcome back. And thanks for staying with us here. You're just listening to Emmanuel, the challenges that advocates, especially members of LUJA, continue to experience in just asking for accountability.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sieh. My director has clearly said, this will not make us to give up. In fact, we were all with him when all of these things were going on. We were all with him, trying to do our best, just in case when they want to put any kind of false charge against him. And we'll again consult with our international partners to consider what is going on in Liberia. One other thing that I have to also remind us of, or politicians who trying to say that, oh, the time has been so long and the war has not been, the war has gone, people have forgotten it, you're leaving and all that kind of stuff. One thing I know for sure, and there are some who are even saying that the international community involvement into our domestic affairs at this time is a conspiracy. And I tell them, say, no, this is how the international community moves. Take for common example, South Africa. South Africa suffer in this war. The South Africans, Black South Africans, they suffer. We heard a lot about them in their own country. Over and over, Nelson Mandela went to jail. He was in jail for his own right for years. And it was like nobody paying attention. But when the very international community got to hear the cries of the people, they got involved. And we saw Nelson Mandela coming out. Similarly, the war in Liberia, when it started, okay, the international community or the very close partners to Liberia, they try to advise government officials that, look, this, when you allow it to come this far, it's going to be difficult to do anything. They didn't listen. And guess what? The war went until it entered Monrovia. And when it entered Monrovia, people became wary of everything. We could not, people could barely eat regular human food. They could eat anything, literally. Okay. Then the international community saw the amount of human rights abuses that were going on. It was the same international community that of that late time came to our aid. Another thing is they didn't just come to our aid and tell us, hey, look, that's your domestic problem, but you'll stop it and turn their back. Guess what? The first 12 years of the fragile peace, they continue to support us financially. They voluntarily did a lot of things for Liberia, but the ordinary Liberians are not feeding it. So what can we do? We need for the politicians to really, really rethink what they are doing. Is the thing is benefiting them today. Literally, it might be.
And Mr. Koti, talking about the politicians, so let me come to that. Talking about the politicians, you think they can be trusted? Because of late, we listening to them, most of these political leaders, some of them are now saying they for war and economic crimes code. And this is the interesting part. Those ones who are saying they for the war and economic crimes code, they are the opposition now. But when these people were in government, or some of them were in good books with the previous government, they were dancing around the subject. Don't you think these politicians can be trusted?
Or I would say no. It is difficult for us to trust them. This is why it is important for justice to be served in Liberia. Politicians, those career politicians, I find it difficult to present themselves in such a way that they will be trusted. Because when they see...
You think they're using this war crime code as a political tool for them to win votes, and that is why they're doing this?
This is exactly what I think, because most of them, common example is President George Weah today. Before he got to power, those were the same words that he was using because he saw it resonating with the voters. And so he used it to get his job. And once he got a job, then the question that he was not asking that time, whether they wanted development or war crime court, he did not ask it. But when he got there now, then he started thinking of another way to convince the people. Hey, look, you can fool all the people for a time, but not all of the people all of the time. So
thank you.
It's difficult for us to trust them. If they want us to trust them, let them show it. Let them show it by actions. Let them,
thank you.
Join with us to fight this war to the end. But they should not just pick it up, because we know very well that elections is just around the corner. 2023 is the elections. So they should not come with those words to convince us. We want our voters. And in fact, after the 1 million signature, after it is completed, we are going to launch another situation another program to start educating our voters.
Thank you.
This is going to help us a lot. We are hoping that they do not continue to intimidate us by arresting our leaders or putting them in jails or torturing them, thinking that that's going to bring the end to the justice that we are fighting for. No.
Thank you, Mr. Koti.
It's only going to energize us.
Thank you, Mr. Koti. And he said all these things only going to energize them in their advocacy. Mr. Savis, let me come to you. This is very important. I know you advocate for Liberians, you advocate for Liberians, especially victims. What I see when you leaders organize any rally, I don't see Liberians in their thousands. I don't see them in their millions. It's taking months and months to get 1 million signatures. Do you feel sometimes that the Liberian people are somewhere, somehow part of this problem? Because if all of them should come out, something will happen. What do you think?
We'll hope for the same. And to be honest with you, I'm not disappointed that Liberians don't show up in their numbers. I can understand the people's situation. I visit frequently in Liberia, and I'll tell you, Mr. Sieh, this is no disrespect to our people. The mental health in Liberia after the Civil War is on the rise. Ordinary Liberians cannot even understand what's going on. They are poor. They wake up in the morning, they're looking for something to eat. Nothing else matters to them. Our people are sick, no good health care. Not to mention that they have killed them to the extent that education is not their priority because they cannot afford it. I feel sorry for the people of Liberia. I feel sorry for my people. I don't hold them responsible for anything. Look at LUJA, for example. We launched the 1 million victim signature. We said we'll do it within a year. We've launched it on May 15, and we're barely over a month, and we have gotten over 46,000 signatures. And we're doing this without even support. We're digging in our pockets to be able to help the process. Individuals like us without money are doing this. Mr. Koti dig in his pocket. Veronica, you, Mr. Sieh, ordinary people like Kelvin, and I can name these people, Yasendi, and you know what? Let me stop naming it because I'm going to forget a lot of them that help out in the process to be able to do something about this situation. We don't raise enough. We don't raise enough. It is never enough. Look, if you have enough like government and you want justice and accountability, the entire Liberia is going to come out. But we don't have the money. We don't have the resources to bring people out. You go and talk to people that want to come to the rally. They need bus. They need money to come back. They need to eat. The people are hungry. They are poor. You got to understand their situation before you blame them. That's why when people say, why did you vote for this person? Well, if you're hungry and somebody give you a bag of rice and you are naked and somebody give you a t-shirt, you'll probably start seeing me like God. And that is the reason for the Civil War. The Civil War was not intended to bring about fair play. The Civil War was intended to keep us poor and to make our young people to run for politicians. That's exactly what we're seeing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Savis. Mr. Koti, let me unmute you here. The same question. The Liberian people. Mr. Savis, you just listened to him. Do you agree with him? Because the people should be able to stand up for themselves sometimes, you know, especially in their case, they were the one whose children were raped. Some of them were raped, and they're like not standing up for themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Sieh. But look at it this way. In fact, Mr. Savis has said it all. But let's look at it this way. All of these things that we are talking they are all process. It's a process. Monrovia is not the only, or is not Liberia. Monrovia is Monrovia, and it's just a county. And so the burden lies with us as well. Like he rightly said, we are digging in our pockets to be able to reach out in the various rural areas. Guess what? Just shortly after he came back, he had bought several bikes, motorbikes, to be able to reach out in the interior. And they're still requesting for more because people need, people are willing, but
oh, it seems to be we lost Mr. Koti there. His internet might have dropped. And Emmanuel, let me bring you in here. And this is my question. Let's come to other institutions that are in the war crimes code advocacy. Who are the other organizations and groups who are involved in the advocacy for war and economic crimes code? And I also want to know, are you guys working together in any shape and form? Is there collaboration?
Yes, there is collaboration. We got the movement for justice. We got the coalition for justice. Of course, LUJA, Liberians United for Justice and Accountability. We have the transitional justice in Liberia. We have the secretary in Liberia for Justice and Accountability. You got the Accountability Group as well. Of course, the Liberian National Bar Association Justice Forum. We are all working together, my brother. We are all doing what we can to fight for justice. Yes, we are working together. Not to mention citizen actions with Phoebe Henrys and Mr. Franklin Wiese as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Emmanuel. Let me. So, talking about the TRC, Mr. Savis, what is the difference, if any, between the TRC recommendations and the War and Economic Crimes Code, and how is one preferred over the other? That's one. And I also want to know, there are folks who feel that, oh, all we need is reconciliation. We don't need to, put some people in jail or hold them accountable in some form for what they did. Where do you stand?
Important because people say that. I don't know how you can reconcile people without justice. It just doesn't make any sense. How do you reconcile you killing my mother and then I'm here saying let's move on? You know who saying let's move on? It's not even the victims. The perpetrators are the ones saying let's move on. It's clear that these people have done all they can to be able to control the governing process, to be able to suppress the people. How could you not want one economic crime squad? Yes, we want both. They both walk hand in hand. And like you said, if one comes where if the other doesn't, you know, if we take war crime squad right now and then economic crime squad later, take them together or the other way around, either way, there's got to be something happening. And while we want both together, if they one economic crime squad do not come together, we are happy with it. We continue to seek for the other one. But I'll tell you, yeah, economic crimes killing more people in Liberia. Take, for example, recently, the government of the Republic of Liberia, through the national legislature, passed an extravagant budget to go in their pockets. We got all senators and representatives signing on it more than a year ago that they will collect $34,000 for legislative engagement. None of them refused to sign that document. They signed the document, and none of them refused to collect the money. They collected the money. These are the things that we got to fight for: the injustice, the economic vampires in government that are making these things legal. If we don't do something about it, it's just going to get worse. And that's exactly what is happening in Liberia.
Mr. Savis, talking about the legislature, has there been any effort on the part of LUJA and the other organizations that are in the advocacy to try to get some allies at the legislature? How has it been on that front? Because you just said clearly these people are passing budget, budget that actually put money, a lot of money in their pocket, but they're not passing anything to benefit the country and its people. Do you have ally? Maybe if you get some ally, there might be a breakthrough here, Mr. Savis.
And that's really important to be able to speak to some of those folks who got the pen and paper to be able to sign something that we want. Unfortunately, we don't trust a lot of them in national legislature. We know others who really fight for war and economic crimes code, like Roslyn Swakoko Dennis, and there's a crew of senators and representatives that do want it. But you know why we don't have it? Because you need to be honest. If you want these things, you cannot be fighting for war and economic crimes and be taking $34,000 away from the people. You're just rearming those that want to continue impunity and not to listen to you. So up to present, we don't even have a senator or a representative that can sit back and say this is not right. But we still pretend like we have better ones and we have some that are not better. And this is the reason why the process is stopped. Because right now, for example, Liberians in their number are looking at George Weah and his bad governance, and they don't care about the bad governance from the other side. And the other side is not synced. They are a possible replacement for the government of the Republic of Liberia under George Manuel Weah. So if we continue with the same kind of advocacy where we don't want to get rid of one Liberian because we are mad at that person and then bring in another Liberian and think we are succeeding, then we are not. That's why we need to focus on even having the international community speaking for us, because I can tell you, and I'm disappointed, and I would say this, I don't trust the national legislature. I do not understand, I can still not comprehend how 54 representatives out of 73 will sign a bill and they still complain that the speaker can't put it on the floor. If I was part of that legislature and I was a legislator, honestly speaking, I don't understand how I would sit there for buffer chamber, the speaker, to take advantage of the majority of the representatives. So they are believable stuff and they are stuff that are not believable. I want to believe that they're not doing very well. They're not doing much for justice, and that's why they have been taken advantage of. Sometimes just a political game, and that's why you hear it on the lips of people, and then it disappeared. We are the only people talking about it when the war is not talking about it. When the war is talking about it, then people come and say, you know what, let me get some attention here. And then they speak about it. You didn't mean it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't care about it. But we want to talk about it when we're listening to ourselves. We want to talk about it when two persons listening. We want to talk about it when nobody's listening, because that's our conviction. We understand justice is what it is. That's why we're consistent and very persistent in the search for justice and accountability out there, Mr. Sieh.
It's more like a hopeless situation Because if you look in the very legislature, you see the opposition in majority. They want to replace the government that we have. So if we should have any hope for us as a country to do something about justice and accountability, maybe we should be looking at the opposition that's saying to us they are better. But they are in majority in there. They are not even signing up. They are not even affixing their signature. They are not acting on this petition. I don't know, Savis, is there hope for Liberia?
And Mr. Sieh, this is what I always say to people. Some people think we have different political parties in Liberia. There's the Liberty Party, there's the Unity Party, there's the ANC, there's the CDC. I don't feel that way. It's different when you look at the governance process and how we have the conglomeration of political parties within a bubble, trying to act like they're preaching politics as if their politics is about ideas, an idea in which one person supports the poor people and the other person says let the rich people triumph. This is not the situation in Liberia. Name one politician, any of you listening to me, that have not been a political prostitute in the Republic of Liberia and is making headways. Name one. Look, the ANC, I mean, the CDC is not different from the Unity Party. The Unity Party is not different from the LP. And the new political party that are coming, gradually we're going to know that they are all the same. Look, we have some really good leaders. For example, Alexander Cummings came out with a really nice statement when he said that he support war and economic crimes court. Whether you mean it or not, this is what politicians should be doing. You need to profess support for it and you need to fight for it. But on the other note, are they fighting for it? They're not. And they're all saying, well, let's get rid of the CDC. How do you get rid of the CDC when you say the CDC is stealing money, but you're signing off on the CDC and making sure that the CDC is printing money when you are also saying that they're stealing money? How do you do when you're collecting money to confirm people that the president put through the system that are not qualified? How do you argue that the president cannot walk away with $575,000 for his own presidential project when you are walking away with $1.5 million every 6 months to be able to carry on your same project? This is the reason why the government of the Republic of Liberia under President Weah cannot listen to opposition, because they themselves are really corrupt. I think you saw one statement from Yonli Kanga, who is not only the head of Liberty Party, but the head of CPP, that just collected $20,000 and another $15,000 on top of her salary, took up and go to the United States and release a statement and saying coronavirus is real and we should go lock down by non-perishable food. Like, how do you did you give them money? You think they got money like you? Liberians went under the bullets to find food for their children to eat because they don't have it in their home. These are people that don't have electricity. These are people that don't have a fridge in their home, obviously without electricity. These are people that cannot keep anything for a day. They got to go and hustle every day. But you, as government officials, collecting thousands and millions of dollars, and then you're asking them to stay in jail, don't eat, die. It's not going to happen.
Mr. Savis, we have a current government. The president, in his most recent interview on War Crimes Code, said, I have never one day asked for War Crime Code. His vice president, our vice president, Joel Howard Taylor, is on record, and you know we have the tapes here. She said, I don't think a War Crime Code is good for our country. Unquote, because we are interrelated, or the interrelatedness of the Liberian family is so tight. Unquote, when you drag one person to court, it will just have a ripple effect on our country. These are our leaders. And you know what they say they want, Mr. Savis? They say they want reconciliation. Do you see them making any efforts on this reconciliation that they want?
Mr. Sieh, no, they're not. And let me take you back to the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration. Some of you don't know that George Weah is a partisan of Unity Party and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is a partisan of CDC. When it got tough, and Weah was capable of representing Liberia on the international stage, with the advocacy of war and economic crimes code. President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf at the time called George Weah and say, you know what, I'm going to make you the peace ambassador. Here is $500,000 for you. President Weah called JJ Okocha from Nigeria to keep the play a game, and the money was exhausted. $500,000 disappeared. Where is the reconciliation that we're talking about? Have we reconciled? I don't understand how a president can call for reconciliation over justice when you need justice before reconciliation. It just doesn't make sense. But here's the reason why they say we are interrelated. Let me explain it. I want to be very clear. Mr. Ansony, Sieh, you know Emmanuel Savis. Emmanuel Savis knows you. And we know what we're into, okay? We are operating on the Liberian people budget, and we have still on enough. And we all got each other's secret. And so we are interrelated. So if I try to arrest you, you also have my secret to have me arrested. These are people who have committed so many atrocities. That's why I said we cannot have these courts unless foreign government with power that we depend on come and help us establish these courts. And that is why I'm not upset about Liberians, because they have done their best. They have come out, they have fight for justice, they have done a lot of things for accountability. These are people, or those are people that are very resilient. They keep fighting for justice, they keep fighting for accountability. Our legislature not fighting for it. Name one person fighting for it. You can't say you're fighting for justice, but you're taking money from the Liberian people the way you do. First of all, we need to understand, like I said, the budget is law. When the president prepared the budget is now law. The budget goes to the national legislature. They look at it and say, well, Mr. President, you can't have this. Mr. President, this is wrong. Go back and review it. These people don't do that. They take what the president gave them, they give what the president wants, and then the Liberian people become absolutely victims in Liberia. So we know we're not succeeding in Liberia unless the international community step in. And that is our hope here, Mr. Sieh.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Savis. Time is fast spent. I think that we have 2 minutes left. And I don't know how it is at your end. We will be coming to a close here. So quickly, let me come in with my final question here. How can Liberians around the world contribute to this effort for the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court? Maybe some people just don't know how to be a part of it, how they can contribute. Maybe they just don't know how.
The law hype for War and Economic Crimes Court, and everybody was talking about it. That's a great contribution. We need to remind ourselves of the Civil War and do something about it. The LUJA is involved with the 1 million victim signature. Thousands of people are signing. Thousands of people have been out there and have rallied with us. We want to make sure that we collect these signatures. We want folks to come and help Liberians United for Justice and Accountability, or other justice organizations, to be able to make this a reality. We want everyone to get involved. Sooner or later, we are going to be asking for some help. So that folks can come out there and be able to help us. Because this is an expensive venture. This is not cheap. We are digging deeper into our own pockets trying to make this work. And Liberians out in the United States, Canada, Great Britain, and other parts of the diaspora are truly victims of the Civil War. Not because we find ourselves in a country where we have 24-hour current life basic necessity available to us, so we are not the victims. We are. And so let's come together. Sooner or later, there will be a petition flying around on the internet for War and Economic Crimes Court that will constitute part of the 1 million signature. We expect every Liberian who are victims to sign that document, as Liberians are doing in the Republic of Liberia. So please, join the struggle, join the fight for war, and say no to politician lies.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Savis. Let me come to you, Mr. Koti. Let me pull you in the middle here. We have to close. Time is fast spent. Your final words. What do Liberians need to know about this advocacy, and how can they be a part? we understand or we know for a fact that you, as the chairman of the board at LUJA, how can Liberians be part of this noble institution advocating for justice and accountability in Liberia, and how can they help, sir?
Thank you, sir. The answer to that question is simple. You can even directly contact me. If you can go on Facebook, contact me, contact Mr. Emmanuel Savis, contact most of these, and this is what I have always talked about, us having a united front. Well, almost all of the advocacy groups in the United States, they have some sort of connection. If you talk to Sister Yasendi, she will be able to get you to know how to get there. If you talk to Sister Hawa Metzger, she is going to be able to help you to get there. Or talk to any of us. If you cannot get to us, you want to just get on Facebook and log in for LUJA. You will find the possibility of you being a part. Besides, you can also, those of you that are away from Liberia, you can call your sisters, your brothers, those of you who were affected as victims. You can call your sisters, your brothers, and talk to them in Liberia, or even around the world about us, and tell them how to contact us. Get on Facebook. It's easy.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Koti and Mr. Savis. Before I can bring you in, let me share with our viewers here. Bear with me here quickly. Those of you following us, this is the website of LUJA. LUJA is Liberians United for Justice and Accountability. And let me show you the website. This is the link to the website. It's www.liberiansunitedforjustice.org. That is the website. If you go to the website, I'm displaying the website now for you to see. And there are so much information for you to use, to be able to get to leaders of LUJA. As you can see, if you come here, you click on contact. I click on contact and it will bring you here. If you can put in your name, your email, and the message, if you send it, officials at LUJA will be able to receive that. So you can look at LUJA's work, all the work that LUJA has been doing. As you can see, we have the LUJA TV. It's also broadcasting, trying to reach all the work that LUJA has been doing. You want to read about the mission statement. You want to see the team. Those who are leaders at LUJA, you will go, you will see that. Some work still being done on the website, but this is the best way to be able, or one of the best way to be able to get to LUJA. So the institution has a website, and this is the web address that I'm displaying on the screen. You can log in there, you can sign up there, you can contribute that also to this effort. So many options for you to contribute to the work of LUJA. So that is LUJA right there on the net. We are now in heading, and you can certainly reach out to us. Mr. Savis, we are about to close at this time. We will get your closing statement, sir.
For walking our listeners through the website there. I want to thank you on this occasion for inviting us. We will be here anytime to speak about justice and accountability. I want every Liberian to get involved, join Liberians United for Justice and Accountability. Go on our website, www.liberiansunitedforjustice.org. If you want to make a contribution, it's easy to make a contribution. There's Zelle, there's Cash App. Be a part of what we're doing, and let's have this 1 million victim signature so that we can be able to go back to the United States and tell the Liberians through the war and economic crimes going into all of you listening, victims of the Civil War. Let's try and do something, especially you that have voices, to be able to speak for those who don't have voices in Liberia. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Ansony, for inviting us on this platform.
Mr. Savis, and folks, this is how we will come to the end of this broadcast. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you. And so you heard it from the leaders, you heard it for yourself. We want justice and accountability in Liberia. This is how we will come to the end of this broadcast. Folks, thank you, and we will see you around.
Yeah,